We are here at the Nürburgring. It's been a long 6 weeks of afternoons, but now finally we're back. It's been a long summer break and we're so super excited to be here because it's halftime in the DTM. We're ready for the first qualifying in the halftime. And looking into the skies, well, it's pretty cloudy. It's drizzling a tiny bit. As we know, the Eifel, anything is possible here, so weather could be a gamble. And the man who's leading the championship is Mirko Bortolotti, and he's 5 points ahead of Kelvin van der Linde. So obviously, as we know, I mean, it's all about collecting valuable points, and every qualifying counts as well. So surely this man is going to push really hard in the qualifying, as will everybody else. It's going to be super exciting. So hold on tight, and now let's get ready for the qualifying. Here are your commentators.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here at the Nürburgring for the first qualifying of the second half of the season. As you can see from that wide shot, there's a few spots of rain in the air. Let's take a look at this Nürburgring circuit, though. We used the sprint version of the track, 3.6 kilometres long. The Grand Prix circuit was built in 1984, but of course we are attached to the wonderful, world-famous Nordschleife. The Green Hell, as the three-time Formula One world champion and three-time winner at the Nordschleife, Jackie Stewart, once called it. DTM visited here between the late 1980s and early 1990s. Had some fantastic races around the Nordschleife. You had the likes of Klaus Ludwig and Nicola Larini in the early 90s. Both went 4 races out of 4 in each of their seasons with visits to the Nürburgring. And Roberto Ravaglia became the first Italian DTM champion in a BMW in 1989. And Nicola Larini himself in 1993, at the end of that period, became a champion, an Italian DTM champion as well. So that is, of course, attached to this circuit. It's all used when we have the Nürburgring 24-hour race here, of which a lot of these drivers in the DTM took part earlier in the year. But now all eyes on the DTM and the task in hand. There are the championship standings after 4 weekends of the 8 visits to Oschersleben, Lausitzring, Zandvoort and Norrisring, and last year's runner-up, Mirko Bortolotti, has a slender 5-point lead in the championship over Kelvin van der Linde, who was third in his first season in DTM in 2021. And René Rast, who has 3 championship titles and has been a 3-time race winner here at the Nürburgring, is catching up after his first win of the season at the Norrisring 5 weeks ago. He's only 11 points back. Maro Engel, super consistent, points in every round, 3 second-place finishes. He's only 15 points back. Arjun Maini having a great season, he's 5th. The defending champion, Thomas Preining, is 6th, and they're all within 30 points of the championship lead. 25 points for each race win, and crucially 3 points for pole position in each of the 2 qualifying sessions. If you're new to DTM, the format is pretty straightforward. It's a 20-minute straight qualifying session, and that will determine the grid for the first race of the weekend, which is going to be round number 9 of the season. And we do the same again tomorrow with a 20-minute qualifying and a race in the afternoon. It's just about 19 degrees, so it's 5 or 6 degrees cooler than it was yesterday afternoon. It's pretty bright and sunny when we were on our way to the circuit a couple of hours ago, but it's darkened over in the last hour or so. However, the forecast isn't as depressing as it was when we first got here this weekend, because a day or so ago it looked like it was going to be a fully wet day. And Saturday was going to be difficult for the drivers and teams, and particularly the fans that are here. But then yesterday afternoon, it looked a little bit better, like it was going to be dry in the morning, but then wet in the afternoon. And then when we checked again this morning, it now looks like it's going to be showers at worst, and not necessarily heavy showers either. So 50-50 chance of showers pretty much all day from now until around about 5 o'clock, and then it gets less chance of rain. But I'm sure that the drivers will want to go out early on in this session. We often see in qualifying a 20-minute session, lots of drivers almost sit out the first 10 minutes, let others mop up the track, make it a bit grippier, wait for the track temperature to go up and go out for the last 10 minutes. It's always a risk, though, if there's a red flag or if rain might come. It's around, it's not really raining at the moment, it's just a few spots in the air, but I think they'll be keen to get straight out there. So it's going to be a great 20-minute qualifying session, I reckon. We've had only one driver that's had more than one pole position this year. It's the same driver that's been the only driver to win more than one race this year, which is Jack Aitken. But he hasn't had the consistency of some of the others, so he's 9th in the championship. And he was on pole for race 1 at the Nürburgring last time out. He had a pole at Zandvoort. He had a pole for the very first qualifying and race of the season at Oschersleben. So we'll see how he gets on. Riccardo Feller might be one to watch. He was 2nd and 3rd in the 2 qualifying sessions here last year. And in terms of the races last year, Mirko Bortolotti took a race win on the Saturday. Issues with the car meant he didn't even start the race on Sunday. It was a wet race 12 months ago. And Max Powell got his first ever DTM race victory in the wet for the Grasser Racing Squad, their first win as a team as well in DTM. And that was from 13th on the grid. There you can see the dark skies in and around us. We are in the commentary box overlooking that start-finish line opposite the garage of Emil Frey Racing, which is the first of the garages nearest to the pit lane entry. And on the pit lane exit, as predicted, they're all heading out onto the track nice and early, except for Kelvin van der Linde, Riccardo Feller, the 2 Ab Sportsline drivers, and Thomas Preining has not yet gone out. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Nürburgring. Welcome to the second half of what's a fascinating DTM 2024 season. My name's Chris Hartley, and alongside me in the commentary box, it's a very good morning to Brian Oliver.
Morning, Chris. It's impossible to come to the Nürburgring and not talk about the weather, really, isn't it? It's always a factor, always a discussion point. If the rain does come, may I remind you that some of the best races we've ever seen have happened in wet conditions, including last time out at the Nürburgring, where René Rast won, and also in the first race of the weekend, the second race of the weekend, Nicky Thiem won as well. So the wet conditions often providing great conditions for really good racing, but as suggested, every car out on track at the moment. So many of the teams want to get the cars out, get the heat into the brakes, and then try to heat soak the tyres from the inside using the hot brakes. Quite often they'll come back into the pits and sit around for about 10 minutes, but maybe not today. Maybe we're going to see those banker laps coming in, but as we say that, the sun's just coming out on the pit straight, so who knows what's going to happen in the next 17 minutes.
Could be all sorts. It's the Nürburgring, so it could be sunny, it could be snowing, it could be foggy, it could be hail, it could be rain. But while it's nice, get out there and get some laps under your belt. It's very humid as well. It's 88% humidity, so yeah, we'd be surprised if we don't get any rain, but as Brian said, it's a bit brighter right now. Let's hear from Kelvin van der Linde.
Basically everyone's out except to our team, so I think everybody's doing this heat soak. Let's see what they do, if they stay out or not. We'll keep you updated.
So not untypical for AB Sportsline to sit out the first portion of qualifying, which can, even when the weather's not an issue, of course, be a risk. Kelvin van der Linde there, 2nd in the championship, and one of his finest weekends was not when he won a race, but when he finished 2nd here a couple of years ago, but 2nd to his brother Sheldon van der Linde. A van der Linde 1-2 finish, the first time, the only time that's happened in history, 2 brothers finishing 1st and 2nd in a DTM race, and they are all heading straight back into the pits. We've only got actually circulating the first portion of the lap Thierry Vermeulen, the young Dutch driver in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. Yesterday, the 2 free practice sessions, the first one was pretty slow, the pace. It was always going to be slower in free practice than on race day, but it was particularly slow. Ayhan Nguyen was the driver that set the quickest lap time in free practice 1 with a 1:26.6, but the qualifying lap record held by Mirko Bortolotti around here is a 1:25.1, a second and a half quicker than that. Spoke to quite a few of the drivers yesterday. They were all saying it was very slippery out there to begin the day. We heard on the radio Thomas Preining yesterday in free practice 1 complaining about having no grip. He was relatively quick compared to the others, but the car looked a real handful at times. And speaking to Lucas Hauer, his theory was that because the most recent round of GT Masters was here on the truck Grand Prix weekend, that the trucks had left a reasonable amount of fluids and oils down on the circuit, and that was what was making it slippy. He said, but by the time we got to free practice 2 and other sessions had been out, the track was kind of back to normal, but it took a few people by surprise. And then indeed we went a lot quicker in free practice 2, 6/10 quicker, with a 1:26.059 from Maro Engel, who was quickest ahead of Lucas Stoltz, so Mercedes 1st and 2nd. And then the Porsche of Ayhan Nguyen going well as well. Spoke to Ayhan yesterday, and he was saying, hopefully the bad luck is out of the way. We've had a tough start to the season. There's been some other issues. It's been tough for us only having 2 Porsches in the field this year as well. We've got no other data to draw on from other brand mates in other teams like they've had in previous years. So he said all things have sort of worked out to make it a tough start to the year, but hopefully we're going in the right direction now. And he certainly had a good day yesterday, the Turkish driver in the Manthey EMA Porsche, the teammate to Thomas Preining. Jack Aitken was struggling the first session yesterday, wasn't he, Brian? But they really up the game in the second free practice session, and he went fourth quickest in the end.
Yeah, they really found something on the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari, because he was not happy after FP1, but was a lot happier after FP2. You already mentioned, as we look at the cloudy skies, that GT Masters were here a couple of weeks ago, and David Schumacher in qualifying set a new lap record around this circuit in this configuration of 124.902. Conditions were a bit warmer than what they are this morning, but we're kind of looking in that area for lap times. It is conceivable that drivers could get into the 24s in this qualifying session. We had a test day directly after that GT Masters event where René Rast went quickest with a 124.974. So it is possible to get into the 24s. But of course it is very much weather condition dependent. All the cars in the pits at the moment doing that heat soak that we heard about on the team radio, except for AB Sportsline, and it's not gone unnoticed that they always seem to have a very different strategy when it comes to qualifying, not going out for that first heat soak lap. And then what we have seen is, particularly with Kelvin van der Linde, then getting out on track and just circulating lap after lap after lap. Very different approach by AB Sportsline to many of the other teams.
Yeah, except this time, by this point, normally you'd have had quite a few of them setting lap times, but nobody has. Nobody's set a lap time yet. They're all doing what I wouldn't do. They're braver than me. I'd have gone and got a lap in now just in case that rain came. But of course, they've all got these weather radars checking in, and probably a bit more expensive than the free one that I use, so we'll wait and see. But it has bitten them in the past. But that said, AB Sportsline kind of know what they're doing, don't they? They've been involved in the championship since 2000. Got their first win as a team here with Laurent Aiello back in 2001. And the team principal, former DTM champion Martin Tomczyk, he's also a two-time winner around the Nürburgring. So they know what they're doing. The McLaren's heading out. Just a quick note on last year, for what it's worth. Qualifying on the Saturday, Mirko Bortolotti got pole position. Thomas Preining was second, and third last year was Riccardo Feller. So three different brands up there in qualifying on the Saturday last year: a Lamborghini, a Porsche and an Audi. And on the Sunday, a very different day. Issues for Mirko Bortolotti. He didn't get out for qualifying at all and then couldn't race. So Riccardo Feller got pole position on the Sunday here 12 months ago. Sheldon van der Linde in the BMW was second, and third was Jack Aitken. So finally, one or two cars heading out on track. It's a busy pit lane, and down there is Verena Vrit.
And I'm here with Martin Tomczyk from AB Sportsline. Let's just find out, you guys are all taking your time. How come?
Well, we saw this throughout the season, that some manufacturers and teams, they do a heat soak into the tires. Means they go out quite early, go one lap around, getting back into the pits to get the whole system heated up. We do not need it, but we wait now for the end of the qualifying, because normally the track conditions and the grip level increases, and perhaps this is the 1 or 200s what we need to fight for the top places.
Thank you, Martin. Best of luck. And both of you drivers just left the box, so back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, really good to get that insight. And just following on from what you were saying about the heat soak, Brian, but they all now go out. It's effectively going to be a 10-minute session by the time they've done their out laps. But Martin is absolutely right. A few hundredths of a second is what they're looking for. That's why they take the risk, because that can be the difference between a few places on the grid. Yesterday in the free practice sessions, the top 18 in both sessions were covered by 9/10 of a second. So it's going to be an incredibly tight session around this 3.629 kilometre long version of the circuit. It's a circuit which has lots of slow exits corners, second gear corners. The first turn is a first gear corner, the slowest turn on the lap of Yokohama S. It's they go from 250 kilometres an hour down the start-finish straight, fifth gear all the way down to first gear, and just 70 kilometres an hour through there. But there are other corners through the AMG Arena and through turn 5, where they turn off the Grand Prix circuit, that are second gear corners, and you need good traction there. And Riccardo Feller was saying in the pre-event statements that the Audis struggle a bit through turn 5, because the track sort of drops away, falls away, coming through that hairpin as it is at the Goodyear turn 6 corner, and you need kind of a lot of weight on the front of the car. They don't really have that, so they struggle a bit there to get onto the power. So it's all tight and twisty through the first sector. The first sector takes in turns 1 to 5, and pretty much takes up half of the lap time. Takes about 43 seconds to get through that first sector on a flying lap, and the flying lap should be in the low 125s, if not slightly quicker on a good day. But then the second sector is a very quick, fast sector. It takes in the left at turn 6, where they go in at 170 kilometers an hour, 130 at the apex. The right-hander at the Bilstein curve, which leads onto the back straight, turn 7. That's about 125, 130 kilometers an hour through that corner as well. And then the Ad Van Bogen around the back of the circuit, it's a kink rather than a bend, really. They're flat out through that at 230 kilometers an hour. Then quite a steep uphill rise to the end of sector 2, just before the Vidal chicane. That's second sector, only takes about 21 seconds on a flying lap, and the last sector is literally the last 2 corners, effectively. Well, turns 9 and 10, which is almost 1 corner, the chicane, and then the slightly uphill climb to the Hyundai N Curva at turn 11. So get that first sector right, but getting the first sector right, Brian, means you need a car with good traction and which rotates well around these slower corners.
Yes, it's all about the compromise and the setup for the different facets of the track, including bumping across that chicane, which is spectacular when they are at full tilt. We've only got 8.5 minutes remaining of this session, and we're yet to have a benchmark time. These drivers are braver than we are. The BMWs and the Mercedes, the front-engined cars, are notoriously difficult to get the Pirelli tyres up to temperature in qualifying. The teams that are running Mercedes and BMW have all said the same. So it is quite a science to get these tyres into the window. Maro Engel, along with Team Winwood, have done some explorations after some poor qualifying performances from him. They found something at the Nürburgring. They're not saying what it was, but he certainly found a bit of pace. We saw that yesterday in free practice. But all the cars out on track at the moment. Nobody's in the pit, so they're all there at the moment, building the heat in the tyres, and when the tyres are in the window, hopefully at the optimum time, it'll be time for the big push lap.
And at most circuits this year, we've seen they're able to get 2, maybe just squeeze 3 quick laps out of the tyres, all on Pirelli slick tyres. And for this event, it varies from circuit to circuit between 3 and 4 sets, but for this event, you get 3 sets of new slick tyres to run across the 2 qualifying sessions and the race. The top 3 finishers from the previous race, a long time ago now, 5 weeks ago at the Nürburgring, they will carry success ballast into the race, but they don't have to run it in qualifying. So everybody's on an even playing field here for this qualifying session. So 7 minutes to go, and we'll now on this lap start to get some quick times. Lukas Stoltz only made his debut here at the Nürburgring in the DTM on a one-off weekend back in 2021 before he came full-time into the championship in 2022. He's finished in the top 6 in the championship on both occasions. He's going well again this year, and Lukas Stoltz will be certainly one to watch around the Nürburgring this weekend in the Mercedes, which is going to be the first one to lay down a benchmark time, really. This should be relatively quick. No, not that quick. So 128s, 129s. No, not yet. But the next one is going to be the one. So only going to get 6.5, 6 minutes, depending on where you are on the circuit, to get a flying lap in. We'll have to see, try and keep an eye on who's almost the last one over the start-finish line when we get down into the final minute or so of the session. So 128.5 is the quickest time so far, but that's nowhere near the kind of pace that we are expecting. There's Ian Nguyen, who went quickest in the first free practice session yesterday. He needs to turn a good Friday into a good Saturday. Thierry Vermeulen's just at the absolute best middle sector. Now, first lap to really keep an eye on is Kelvin van der Linde and also Lukas Stoltz, Mirko Bortolotti. They've both done 43s through the first sector. Arjun Mining as well has done a 43, all in the 43.8s, absolute best in the second sector for Kelvin van der Linde. So those are the 3 on a real flying first half of the lap, and it's going to be Kelvin van der Linde, I think, is going to set the early quick time. He's 6th at the moment, the driver's 2nd in the championship. Mirko Bortolotti's been the best qualifier on average this year, but Kelvin's gone well most of the time in qualifying. And there we go, the first time in the 125s, a 125.8, but we're going to have to go quicker than that, Brian.
Yes, so Kelvin van der Linde just building it, and I expect to see him out on circuit for the whole of the next 5 minutes and 10 seconds. But Luca Engsler also picking up the pace. Ian Changuin, the quickest of anybody in Sector 1, so 43.7 at the moment. He was looking good yesterday. So Ian Changuin, one that we've got an eye on as well. At the moment, a 125.829 they're aiming at, but we're going to see some significant improvements on that. There's Ian Changuin, the purple bar at the bottom of the graphic, indicating he was quickest in Sector 1, a personal best in Sector 2, 21.586. So this short final sector of the lap in towards turn 11 he comes. He'll try and get the perfect exit out onto the pit straight. It'll be absolutely foot to the floor all the way down to the line. It's going to be an improvement for Ian Changuin. Where will he end up? He will end up fastest, a 125.684.
So that's as quick as we went in free practice 1, but still half a second down on free practice 2. Interestingly, Kelvin van der Linde is going through the chicane. He's second in the championship, first in the championship. He's the next car behind him. Mirko Bortolotti just going into the chicane now. So Thierry Vermeulen having gone second quickest with a 125.7. But let's see how the Audi gets on. Bortolotti's done the absolute best first sector time. Kelvin van der Linde shaves a tiny bit off, but not much, 125.6. Maybe the track is not quite as quick as it was yesterday. So we're expecting quicker times. Bortolotti shaves a few hundredths off, though. And the Italian goes into the 125.3s with that lap time. So 125.3, almost exactly 0.3 of a second quicker than Kelvin van der Linde. Ian Changuin, who's averaged 14th on the grid this year and hasn't been in the top 3 in qualifying yet this season. He's third. Ricardo Feller, who was on pole here last year, is fourth. Then it's Vermeulen, the leading Ferrari. Wittmann, the leading BMW, 5th and 6th at the moment. What about Sheldon van der Linde, though? The 2022 champion is about to come through the final turn. At the moment, he's 17th quickest, but this is going to be a big improvement for the South African. He comes over the line, he goes through, but only 11th place, 126.613.
Yeah, so Sheldon van der Linde, that's why it wasn't great. That's such a shame because it was a really good lap up until then, but at the chicane, getting it wrong under braking across the grass, he would have lost an awful lot of valuable time there. He'll still have life in the tyres, but he's going to have to get them cleaned up as quickly as possible to give it another go. Vermeulen's
done the absolute best middle sector at the time, but he lost 0.3 in the first sector. It's still an improvement on his times, though, to go second quickest, but most of the time he lost to Mirko Bortolotti was in the first half of the lap. Kelvin van der Linde, though, has pulled the trigger. He's gone absolute best in the middle sector. He comes over the line. This is surely going to be his last quick lap, but it's not enough for pole. It is good enough for the front row, though. 125.526 behind Bortolotti. So the championship leader, the driver second in the championship at the moment, are first and second on the grid, with Vermeulen third, Guwen fourth, Feller in fifth, Jack Aitken has come up to sixth, and Lucas Ayer is seventh.
You're P1 by 2.5 tenths, P1 by 2.5 tenths.
Not anymore. 1.5 tenths.
Yeah, this lap is not good. Maybe I can try one more, but I don't think there is much more left, honestly.
So Mirko Bortolotti saying, I'll give it another go. I don't think I've got any more time left. Sheldon van der Linde is dead last, but has done a pretty good first sector. 0.4 down in it, but the absolute best second sector will be an improvement. How high up the order will he get with this lap, though? He comes through only 16th place for Sheldon van der Linde. So that is a disappointment. He's got time for another 2 laps if he wants it, but can he get one more out of those tyres? And Nicky Tim, the hero of the Norris Ring, as Sheldon van der Linde misses the apex completely on the way into turn 1. Nicky Tim, the hero of the Norris Ring, with his maiden DTM victory before the summer break, has gone 4th quickest. And that will be very handy for SSR Performance, because he, of course, is teammates to the championship leader, Mirko Bortolotti, who's on provisional pole at the moment.
Both Sheldon van der Linde and René Rast had laps cancelled as a result of exceeding track limits on turn 10, where we saw Sheldon van der Linde having that excursion. But that's also the case for René Rast as well. He's down in 13th place at the moment, so still trying to find a bit of pace in both of those BMWs. We're looking at Arjun Maini, a personal best in Sector 1. Out across the line he comes. It is a 125.965. That's good enough for a P12.
Yeah, not anywhere near the standards that Arjun has had so far this season. Though he's been really good in qualifying, one of the best qualifiers. Here is Nicky Tim, personal best in the first sector. He's about 0.2 down in the second sector. He might improve He gets, well, he's still fourth, but he gets a 125.873, and that lap was 2 tenths slower than his previous best. But Maro Engel has snuck through to third place. He's just got across the line with a 125.497. Kelvin van der Linde, though, has gone to the top of the times by 21 thousandths of a second ahead of Mirko Bortolotti, who is now pitted. So Bortolotti, at best, is going to be second on the grid.
So the clock with 7 seconds remaining on it, and suddenly time is running out for many of the runners further back. Defending champion Thomas Preining all the way down in 15th place. Sheldon van der Linde in 18th place. So running out of time to do anything about it. Lucas Auer on a good lap at the moment. 2 personal best sectors. Out of a turn 11, he comes across the line. Lucas Auer stops the clock at a 125.405. That's good for P3. So good performance for Lucas Auer.
Lucas Stoltz might improve. He's 10th. He lost 3 tenths relative to the best lap through the first sector. He's done a personal best through the second sector. He's about 4 tenths down, and his best lap time is 4 tenths down. He has a mighty final sector. He might sneak up a place or two, Lucas Stoltz. Van der Linde and Bortolotti both have finished their sessions, but with Kelvin van der Linde looking like he's got pole position by 21 thousandths of a second. They look relatively happy with second on the grid, though, at SSR Performance. Nicky Tim has fallen back a bit to 6th place, though, because of that improvement from Maro Engel, and that improvement, as Brian said, from Lucas Auer, to go 3rd for Auer, 4th for Engel in the end, and Vermeulen with a great qualifying there, 5th place in the Ferrari, out of his teammate Jack Aitken, who is in 9th place. Lucas Stoltz didn't improve on the last lap, so remains in 10th position. So for Kelvin van der Linde, a very valuable 3 championship points for the South African. He's only 5 behind, remember, at the start of the day. He's now only 2 points behind Mirko. Well, no, not 2 points behind, because Mirko has got 2 points. He's just got the news.
Yes.
He was waiting. So, yeah, he scored 3 points. Mirko Bortolotti has scored 2 points. So the gap has come down at the top of the table from 5 points to 4. That's how tight it is. But these points that you get in qualifying are oh so valuable. Mirko Bortolotti has now scored 13 points from qualifying this year. But for Kelvin van der Linde, that is a 2nd pole of the year. He's only the 2nd driver this season to get more than 1 pole. He got pole at the Lausitzring, and he's got pole position again. Goes on the scales to get weighed, and well, looked pretty handy yesterday, Kelvin van der Linde, and that is a tremendous effort. He's on pole from Mirko Bortolotti, and this man, Lucas Auer, coming home in 3rd place. I think Lucas will be very pleased about that, because that is Lucas's best qualifying of the season so far. His previous best was 5th at Zandvoort. For Mirko Bortolotti, more useful points in the bag. That is going to be, this afternoon, his 5th race start on the front row of a grid. He's had 1 pole, he's had 4 seconds now, and he's had 2 thirds as well in qualifying, racking the points up all the way through the season. Still looking for his first win of the year, Mirko Bortolotti, but Kelvin van der Linde just pipped him by 21 thousandths of a second. In the end, there was only 55 thousandths of a second, Brian, between the top 3.
Yes, it was close, wasn't it? A couple of drivers lost their laps in the absolute closing stages. Thomas Preining and Nicky Tim both had lap times cancelled because of exceeding track limits in turn 10. I loved that shot of Kelvin van der Linde in the car. You could see the tension as he was getting the news.
Confirmation of the order then. Pole position for the first race of the weekend, round 9 of the championship. Kelvin van der Linde, Mirko Bortolotti 2nd, Lucas Auer 3rd, Engel, Vermeulen and Tim round out the top 6. Felle, Guin and Aitken next up. Stoltz is 10th. Marco Wittmann and René Rast, the 2 Schubert teammates, 11th and 12th. The best of the BMWs. Frank Pereira, who's subbing again for a 2nd consecutive weekend for Christian Engelhardt, who's recovering from knee surgery, was 13th. Arjun Maini in 14th. Position in that session. He remember the Indian driver is 5th in the championship. We spoke to him before qualifying, and he was a bit about the way the car was going, so his 2nd worst qualifying of the year. Let's get some reaction down in the pit lane now, though, with Verena.
Now I've got Lucas Auer here, starting in P3, so hopefully it's going to be your first podium in the season.
Yes, let's see. Guys have done an incredible job. Actually, we had, since Nürburgring, quite tough problems, but now we managed well, and let's see what's possible in the race.
And look, and you're P3 and the sun's coming out.
Yeah, let's see how long it keeps there.
Exactly. All right, thank you so much. Best of luck for the race later on. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, Lucas Auer, good to see him going well, the former championship runner-up. Last podium that he had was here last year, so he's had to wait a while. His last win came at Hockenheim in 2022. This was the lap that did it then for Kelvin van der Linde. You ride on board with the driver second in the championship as in making his way through the first twisty section, the AMG Arena. This is where they turn off the Grand Prix circuit. It's quite a drop down there, as you can see, through turn 5, second gear, 80 kilometers an hour. Get on the accelerator and out in towards the fast sector. While we look at that, though, we can get some more news from Verena.
And we've got Mirko Bortolotti here, the leader of the championship, starting in P2, and you've got Kelvin van der Linde in front of you, who's right behind you in the championship. So it's going to be an interesting race, huh?
Yeah, but first of all, it's been a really good qualifying because, I mean, we came into the weekend knowing it's going to be really tough. Our car is really heavy. That's not really an advantage. So, you know, pulling that lap off, it's, you know, makes me really, really happy and really proud. So we can be really, you know, happy with what have happened this morning. Only 21 thousandths of a second. It's super close as usual, but still being in the front row here in Nürburgring is a great way to start the day.
Absolutely. So it's going to be an interesting and fascinating race, that's for sure. Best of luck for it and see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mirko. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Mirko Bortolotti very happy with that, as he should be. Remember, though, for the race, having finished second last time out at the Nürburgring, third last time out. No, he was second last time out in race 2. He's going to have 10 kilograms of success ballast on board the Lamborghini. Kelvin van der Linde was 4th in the most recent race, which means he won't have any success ballast on. The confirmation that the gap has come down by a single point between the top two, but René Rast has lost ground. He's the only one of the top 4 in the championship that is not up there on the grid, starting in the middle of the grid. Maro Engel had a good qualifying as well. So those are the standings. Arjun Maini 5th in the championship, back in 12th spot on the grid as well. So an opportunity coming up when we start the race at 1:30 this afternoon for the top 2 in the championship to perhaps pull away. We'll see how it goes. The sun has just come out. Will it be sunny for the race later on? Who knows? From Brian and myself, Chris Hartley, it's goodbye from the commentary box and back down to Verena.
Standing here in the sunshine, I'm with Kelvin van der Linde, who's in pole position. So you've got to be absolutely psyched about that, especially because you've got Mirko Bortolotti behind you, who's the leader of the championship, and you're 5 points behind him. So this is the race you've got to ace, right?
Of course. To be honest, I wasn't really looking at the points this morning. I wanted to do a good quali. There's still a lot of races to go, and I just wanted to make sure we get the maximum out of our package, and I think that's what we did. On the last lap, I saw on the main timing screen that I was still on P2, and I needed to go like full risk for the last lap. That's what I did. I was close to throwing the car away on the last lap, but sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit, so I'm very happy.
Speaking of risk, you just said you would love... Sorry, throwing away my pen here. You said earlier, even though the sunshine, or now that the sun is shining, you were saying you would love to have a boring race in order for you to hopefully come in as race winner.
Yeah, I mean, we had so many races here where it's been rainy and mixed conditions, so it'd be nice to have a boring race today. Even for the fans, maybe they don't like that, but for me it'd be nice today.
Well, we all love the sunshine, right?
Yeah, we love it, especially at the Nürburgring. We need to enjoy the days where it is sunny, so...
Absolutely. All right, well, best of luck for the race later on. Thank you, Kelvin. And that's it from the qualifying here from the Nürburgring. And now, of course, we're looking forward to a very exciting race with sunshine, but we want some excitement. I'm sure we're going to get that. So see you later on. Here are the highlights of the day. Enjoy. Bye-bye.